that one, the tension I just love, and maybe that's because I like angst a little bit too much. Hi, I'm Claudia, and friends to lovers is one of my favourite tropes. I mean, I am at heart an enemies to lovers girl, but friends to lovers, it's up there, okay? It's definitely up there. And I mean, at this point, it's honestly a little shocking to me that I haven't made a video about friends to lovers yet. I mean, if you consider that I made an enemies to lovers video almost 2 years ago now, it's one of the first videos I ever posted. I'm not gonna link it. Don't go and watch it. It's bad, okay? I'm just gonna come out right and say it. It's not good. But here we are, it's 2 years later and I'm finally making a friends to lovers video. Also, I know the t-shirt I'm wearing literally says enemies to lovers on it, but just ignore that, okay? We're just gonna pretend it says friends to lovers instead. But friends to lovers is, at its core, at least in my opinion, one of the most realistic tropes. At least from what I know, as someone who is perpetually single and has never dated anyone, it seems like it would be the most realistic, okay? Like, you make friends with someone, then you start falling in love with them, then you start dating. That seems like a logical sequence of events. And that's probably why it is so prevalent in media. Most TV shows have some kind of friends to lovers going on, and even if that's like frenemies to lovers, I'm gonna count that as friends to lovers. And like, of course I love friends to lovers. If you've seen any other video on my channel, you will know I am a hardcore buddy shipper. That is friends to lovers at its finest. Although I should say, before I start talking about Buddy, I am filming this before season 9 episode 17 of 911, so if Buddy has gone canon by the time this video goes up, I don't know about it yet. But I do think Buddy is such a good example of friends to lovers because they are such close friends. If you don't know 911, basically these two characters are so codependent, it's not even funny anymore. If these two characters happen to be apart, they are both just yapping about the other one constantly. When one of the characters temporarily moved to another state last season, they FaceTimed all the time. It's been like 8 seasons of the two of them being best friends, but kind of a little bit more than that, but they're not like talking about it, then no one can name it. It's a lot, okay? But I do think watching 911 really put me on the whole friends to lovers train. Before that, enemies to lovers was solidly in my top 5 favourite tropes, but friends to lovers was a bit further down. But now, friends to lovers is up there, okay? I still do love enemies to lovers a little bit more, but that's because I like a bit of angst in my life, okay? I can't help it. But there is something about friends to lovers which just makes my heart sing a little bit. Just because typically in fanfiction, in media, most places where you find friends to lovers, they know each other so well before they even start dating. Which then means when they do start dating, you get one of 2 scenarios. They both get really, really awkward on the first date because they're like, we don't know how to do this, we've been friends for so long, how do we go about this kind of vibe? Or they know each other too well and the date goes super perfectly because they just know everything about each other, so they can just do everything the other wants to do without even asking. I do really like that first one though, where things get a bit awkward on the first date, and one example of that in like media that I love is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. When Jake and Amy go on that first date and they both just get really drunk because they think it's really awkward because they're like, we've been waiting to date for so long and now we are, so what do we do with this? And I love that. I read so many fanfics for so many different ships and fandoms that do that, and I love it so much because usually they get awkward because they just desperately want it to go so well, and I feel like that's what would happen with Buddy, but we're not going to go there right now. I will be making a video at some point with my hopes for what Buddy will become, but that will be after season 9 is done. But sometimes the characters just have to learn to like loosen up a little bit and think about it not as like a first date, but it's kind of just the two of them hanging out as friends, except maybe they can kiss this time. Because from what I know about first dates, a lot of it is to do with like getting to know the other person, and if you've been friends for years already, you kind of already know everything about them. So they end up being like stuck for conversation topics, they don't really know what to say, and they just need to learn to relax a little bit and treat it as if it's like a normal day and not a date. Other like canon ships that have this are Chenford from The Rookie. Their first date, they're both so nervous and it's so adorable. Like in that episode of The Rookie, we see them go through loads of outfits like individually, and they're both stressing out about wearing the perfect thing and it being the perfect date because they've been waiting for ages to even like try out their relationship, and I love it so much, okay? But on the flip side, you can also have friends to lovers where you have the first date and it's just so natural that everything goes perfectly and they're not too awkward. That I feel typically happens more when the characters aren't calling it a date and they're just kind of hanging out, but they can kiss now. I mean, I have seen that in so many buddy fanfics, and I love it. The fact that they don't feel the need to go on some fancy date because they've known each other for so long, they know how like they like to spend time with each other, they know they just want to hang out at home or whatever. I love that. But something I also love about friends to lovers is the consequences following getting together. Because quite often you have the characters have like an extended group of friends who know them as just like really good friends or best friends or whatever. And like sometimes the characters, after they get together, they try and keep it secret from their friends and just no one notices anything has changed because they've kind of just always been a little bit codependent, and maybe they're a little bit more codependent, but like there's no real difference. Or the characters really do notice that they're suddenly way more tactile and they're way more intertwined in each other's lives all of a sudden, and they're like, hold on, has something changed? Has something shifted in the air? Or if they just come out and say it and just tell everyone, yeah, we're dating now. Usually there's some kind of like bet going on, everyone's really happy for them or something like that. I have to say, I love it when characters bet on two other characters dating. I just think it's hilarious, okay? There's a reason why that within the 911 fandom, the headcanon that all of their friends have a bet on Buck and Eddie getting together is so popular, and that's because it's hilarious. The idea that all of their friends have just watched them kind of dance around each other for years but still be best friends, they're all like so exasperated that they end up making a bet about it. I love it so much. Like the extended friend groups probably had to hear we're just friends like hundreds of times, and so for them to just have been secretly betting on the two of them finally getting together, I love it, okay? The consequences can also be sometimes very interesting if the characters work together. Obviously this happens a lot with a lot of my favourite shows because I watch a lot of procedurals, but I love it when like the characters have to go to their boss and fill out relationship paperwork, whatever that kind of paperwork might be, and then it turns out the boss has already filled it in for them and just hands it to them and says, you just need to sign at the bottom, I filled everything in, these have been waiting for you for years, just fill in the date and sign. I really hope that when Buddie goes canon, yes I'm saying when, but when Buddie goes canon, there are some bits of paperwork with all of Buck and Eddie's information already filled out and Bobby did it before he died. I will cry, okay? 911 writers, look at me. Everyone will love you if you do this, okay? Or if the paperwork's like not already been filled out, they have to sit there in like their boss's office and fill it out, and the boss is just looking at them like, okay, so when did this happen? Or maybe like they're trying to keep it a secret but they have to go to the boss with this paperwork because otherwise it could be really bad for their careers, but their boss is secretly in on the bet and just wants to get all of the information so they can go and change their bet before they go public and win the entire pot. But another aspect of friends to lovers is the actual getting together moment. Now this can happen in a multitude of ways, and that's why I love it so much in fanfiction, because fanfiction authors have such good ideas and they're so creative and they can just pluck anything and make it be like a getting together moment, and I love that so much. You can have like a heat of the moment confession where everything just gets too much and they ended up just like blurting out that they love them. You can have a near-death confession where one of them is about to die and on their deathbed admits that they're in love with them. Very angsty, but I still kind of love it. Or you can have the moment where everything is just really normal, they're acting like completely as they normally do, but one of them just can't hold it back anymore and they just say I love you. That last one is a personal favourite of mine, and that is why it's in my current ongoing fic. Or you can have some kind of moment where one of them is like leaving for a while, like either they're moving somewhere or they're just not going to be able to be in contact for a while and they just like admit it. Or you can have some kind of situation where like a character is going somewhere and they don't know if they're going to make it back alive, so they're like, just so you know, in case I don't make it back alive, I love you, I've loved you for like a while, if I do make it back, we can talk about it, but I'm just gonna go now. That one, the tension, I just love, and maybe that's because I like angst a little bit too much. Or you can have one of the characters just say it by accident. I've seen a lot of buddy fics with this, where like Eddie and Chris are leaving out the door, and as they leave, Eddie accidentally says to Buck like, love you, and then just leaves. And Buck is left like reeling. And he's like, did Eddie just say that? Did he mean to say that? Was that by accident? Like, what is going on? Or kind of similarly to accidentally admitting it, having one of the characters be on some painkillers and be like kind of loopy after an injury and accidentally admit that they're in love with the other one, even though they don't really know what's going on because they're on so many painkillers. Like, imagine, character has been injured, character is in hospital bed, kind of loopy on painkillers. Entire extended friend group is in the room, like, checking on them. The injured character is just, like, talking to one of their friends completely out of it, and goes, you know that other character? Yeah, I'm in love with them, but don't tell them, they're not supposed to know. Little do they know, other character is literally sitting right there. And then the injured character pretty much immediately just falls asleep, and all of the extended friend group are just like, what? And they're all like freaking out, but they're trying to be quiet because they're in a hospital room, but they're all like freaking out, and the other character's like, what do you mean they're in love with me? Like, I've been in love with them for ages, but I didn't think they liked me back. And then following on from that, while the character is still in the hospital, the other character like starts avoiding them, doesn't go to the hospital as often, or if they do, it's like when they're asleep. The one that's injured doesn't remember saying this because they were like loopy at the time, but then once they go home, they finally have like the big confrontation, and the other character's like, when you're on painkillers, you told me that you love me, is that true? And they have to be like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry, I know you don't like me that. And they're like, no, I do like you like that, that's why I'm freaking out about this. You know, now I'm talking about this, I kind of really want to write that. so that might be coming to an AO3 near you in the next couple of months. Also, with like relationship reveal for friends to lovers, I really love that like maybe they've been like staying at one of their houses for ages and they've just like not been telling anyone and they've kind of been keeping it a secret. Then one of their friends shows up at their house and just like kind of bursts in because they're like a good friend and they have a key and like they have plans, so why shouldn't they? And then sees them both like on the couch together and is like, what? And immediately it's like interrogation mode and they're like, how long has this been going on? Tell me everything. I need all the details right now. And maybe they want all the details for bet reasons, or maybe they just want all the details because they're a good friend, you know? Or maybe you have a situation where like the whole extended friend group goes out, they all get a little bit drunk, and while they're drunk, the two characters in the ship end up kissing each other a lot. And all of the other characters know, those two characters forget because they're so drunk. And then like a few days later, one of the other characters asks them like, oh, hey, have you guys been on that date yet? And the two of them are like, what do you mean a date? We're just friends. Like, there's no dating going on here. And they're like, but the other night you were literally making out with each other. And they're like, what? And it turns out one of them's got videos, so they show them the video and they're like, oh, we were making out like heavily. Maybe we should like think about our friendship in like a different light potentially. Or similarly, you can have two characters kissing when they're a bit drunk and only one of them remembers, the other one doesn't, and the other one has to be like, was that just like a drunk thing that they didn't really mean, or do they actually like me? Should I say anything? Do I not? At some point I will write a buddy one shot where I've had that idea where like Buck and Eddie kiss at Chim's bachelor party and Eddie remembers but Buck doesn't. I will write that one shot at some point. I've had that idea for like a couple of years now. I will write it at some point. Or like going back to the deathbed love confessions, they're both in a situation where they're both probably gonna die, and like in their last few moments they look at each other and like, I'm in love with you, and the other one's like, I'm in love with you too, and they end up kissing and then they get saved because I don't want them both to die. That would be horrible. But then after they're saved and they're like recovering, they have to be like, okay, do we actually try and make this work, or was this just like a deathbed love confession kind of thing? Like, how do we actually try and go about this now that we've survived with it we didn't think we were going to survive? Or you can have like a completely different situation with friends to lovers, in that the two friends, they're not best friends, they're just kind of like friends, they're in the same friend group, and when they announce that like the two of them are dating, all of their friends kind of look at them and are like, huh, I didn't see it before, but now you're telling me, I kind of see it between the two of you. And it kind of like recontextualizes their entire friendship leading up to that point. Maybe it's like a big friend group, but the two of them have never really gotten along super well and they always like kind of bicker between each other at like friend gatherings and stuff. But then they get together one night and they're like, oh, maybe we were just bickering because we liked each other but we didn't really know how to express it, you know? And then they tell everyone and everyone's like, oh, okay, you know what, I can see it now. Like, now you tell me, I kind of see that you two definitely liked each other. I don't know how I missed this before. I think that can be really fun because you can have these two characters like having feelings for each other but not like accepting them, refusing to admit to themselves that they even have these feelings, but secretly they kind of really like each other and no one else is noticing apart from them, and they don't really feel like they can talk about it with any of their friends because their friends just know them as people who bicker. Sorry, my voice keeps kind of going, by the way. I went to a concert a couple of nights ago. I have not recovered yet. And if you have that situation where none of the friends even like think about them, two of them having feelings for each other, or even if they do, you know, have a situation where one of them still like kind of deathbed love confession, but it's more like deathbed relationship confession, where like one of the characters in the ship is with their friends and they're like dying and they're like, you need to take care of this other character, we're together, we have been for like a few weeks in secret, make sure you take care of them like before they die. And like that's how they find out about the relationship, and then the character gets saved but like they can't ask questions because like they're still like not well, and like the other character's like really struggling because their like partner almost died, and they're like, when do we ask about this, because like we want to ask. I also do think friends to lovers pairs very nicely with a lot of my other favorite tropes. Obviously I mentioned I also love enemies to lovers, and you can have enemies to friends to lovers as kind of like a mishmash of the two, or you can do like friends to lovers and then they break up and they go to enemies but then they go back to lovers again, and that fits in very nicely with right person wrong time, which is one of my absolute favorite tropes ever. I love it so much. Also it fits nicely with fake dating because you can have these two characters being friends for ages, everyone's like, when are you going to get together, and they're like, we're just friends, and then a situation arises where they're like, actually we're going to fake date each other, but everyone they know thinks it's real because that's the point of the fake dating, but like slowly they actually start falling in love with each other and they're like, I don't want to go back to just being friends, I actually want to date you. Or with like a soulmates AU where one of them has some kind of soul mark, like whatever it is, there's so many different options for soulmates AUs, but like they've never seen their friends one because it's like impolite to look, or is in like a location where you don't usually see or whatever, and then they see it for the first time and they're like, oh my god, we're soulmates, but we're also also best friends, like how do I go about even like approaching this situation with them? Or like I've already mentioned the characters keeping it a secret from their friends, but you can take it to the next level and have like a proper secret relationship where something to do with their work or something like that means they can't be together, so they have to keep it a secret from everyone. Everyone knows them as really close friends, so when they try and act like they're not dating, they're acting like they're fighting as friends, and they're like, are you two okay? But they can't say why they're not being like as tactile as usual or whatever. Or maybe like it's a fame AU and they're kind of famous and they're doing like an interview, and like people love their interviews because they kind of act like they're really close friends and everyone loves their friendship, but there's like a small portion of people who ship them together, but they can't say anything about their relationship because they signed some contract or whatever, but like they want everyone to know, so they start being a little bit more tactile, and the shippers get like more and more like information and like more evidence towards their ship, and all the non-shippers are like, stop shipping them, and they're like, oh my god, what are we supposed to do? Can you tell I've thought about that one a lot? I'm probably thinking about that one a lot because I'm reading a lot of Heated Rivalry fanfiction at the minute, and I have been since I first watched Heated Rivalry back in January. But we're not going to go into that right now. What I'm trying to say is friends to lovers is one of my absolute favourite tropes. It's not higher than enemies to lovers, unfortunately, because I'm a bit of an angst fiend, but it is up there. And I do think as soon as Buddy goes canon, and I'm saying when because it is going to happen, I'm manifesting, okay? But when Buddy goes canon, that will be probably my favourite friends to lovers ship of all time, mainly because it's currently my favourite ship of all time, so that would make sense. But if you also love friends to lovers, maybe you'd leave a like on this video, or potentially even leave a comment telling me your favourite thing about the trope. And since you know you've watched the video all the way through, you might as well subscribe. You know, I post a bunch of videos all about fanfiction and my favourite TV shows, so if you like this kind of content, you'll probably like what I do here. If you want to follow me anywhere else, there'll be links in the description to my AO3 profile if you want to read my fanfics, but also to my Twitter account and my TikTok account. And I post new fanfiction related TikToks literally every single day, so if you think you might like that, go check me out over there. And also, current plan is by the time this video goes up, 911 season 9 will be over, so if Buddy's canon, just know I'm probably freaking out. So yeah, I've been Claudia, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll hopefully see you all soon. Bye!